I've even done it with 60,000. Anything below 70,000, it really depends on the type of business and there's a bunch of other factors. But I think if any investor says 100 and above,
Yeah.
really high probability of getting approved. So you have to demonstrate that at the end of the week, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, you're going to walk away with a profit. Easy way is, hey, here's a contract. It's a construction company. I bought the bulldozer. It costed me 150,000. I bought the crane and it costed me $200,000, right?
Right.
Maybe you didn't pay cash 100%. Maybe they did financing. Hey, I'm a foreigner in the US that I'm about to invest $300,000. Well, what if I die? What happens with that? Right? How is that handled? Are there any tax consequences?
Welcome back to another podcast. This is again talking expat taxes. And today I have a really special guest with me to talk not so much about expat taxes, which is kind of our bread and butter, but talk more about, and I've been getting a lot of questions about, people moving to the US. What are some of the visa complications that they have, transferring from companies, investing in the US? So today I have Alfredo Lozano, who specializes in that sort of thing. And he's going to kind of talk us through what he's seeing out in the marketplace. And then we'll get into some of the weeds of the technical pieces of that. So, welcome on board here, Alfredo. Excited to have you. Maybe you could give us just a little bit of background on what you do, what your firm does, and then we can get going.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the invitation. So my firm's is out of San Antonio, Texas, and we operate nationwide. And we do only immigration law. So I handle two sides. There's three buckets of immigration. You've got deportation, you've got family base, and you've got employment base. Right now, we focus on the family base and the employment base.
Okay.
So for your audience, I think for those that are looking to invest in the US, or maybe they work with a multinational company and they want to come to the US, so we're probably looking at E2 visas, E1 visas, L1, even EB5 for those that want to come and invest in a regional center to get their green card, $800,000 investment. So yeah, those are the people that I normally work with.
Yeah. So maybe if you could just give a broad explanation, because I think those are the three big ones that I see. And I think most people would see is that, the L1, L2, E1, E2, and then what is it, HB5? HB, no,
Yeah, the EB5.
EB5.
So yeah, let's start with the E2. So E2 is the most common one. It's the E2 is the investor visa.
Okay.
So basically what's immigration or the Department of State looking for in order to be able to give you this visa, issue this visa? So the regulation state, you have to invest a substantial amount in the US. There is not a number. They don't say, oh, it has to be 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000.
Just the typical undefined term that they throw in.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And typically, in practice, we see 100 and above, right? 120, 100,000. I mean, I've done it with 70,000. I've even done it with 60,000. Anything below 70,000, it really depends on the type of business and there's a bunch of other factors. But I think if any investor says 100 and above,
Yeah.
really high probability of getting approved. So the amount of investment, it has to be an investment that you're going to direct and operate. I'll give you an example. So I've got an investor. He says, hey, I'm going to buy 5 homes. I'm going to rent them. And each home was $100,000. Will they give me the visa? Most likely not, because what are you going to say? Oh, I have to go there once a month to pick up the rent money.
Right.
So had that investor invested $500,000 and maybe into a bunch of Airbnbs or a small hotel where there's a
You can
daily,
justify
weekly,
Yeah.
now it's a daily operating business. It's much easier to prove it up.
Yeah.
So a month investment, it has to be, and then the last one is it has to be profitable. You have to demonstrate that at the end of the week, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, you're going to walk away with a profit. We know that some businesses eat money the first year, 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Immigration's aware of that, but normally they want to see before the 5th year, you better start showing profitability.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So it has to be So substantial investment, $100,000 is a good rule of thumb, and you have to manage it and it has to be profitable. So how are they like that initial investment? How are you proving that? Is it going, you have to show bank records or how does that, what does
Yeah,
it look
that's
like practically?
yeah. What I like to do is demonstrate the A, B, C, D, E. Like,
Yeah.
you sold, you're in your home country. Let's assume you're in Germany. You sold your house, or
Right.
you've worked as an executive and making $300,000 a year. You saved this money up over the last couple of years. That money was wired transferred to your LLC in the United States or your corporation,
Mhm.
right? From one bank to the other bank.
So
Um,
you already need to have this company set up before
yes.
you apply for the visa.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
have the
that's
company set up and then you're okay. So yeah, go ahead. So
yeah.
you're
Let,
showing
and let
this
me,
movement.
yeah, and I apologize. That's a great point that you're bringing up, Alex. In order for you to get the visa, the monies must be at risk. So immigration wants you
Okay.
to see you've already invested this money. Yeah.
Okay. How far in advance can you do that? Because I mean, I work with a lot of non-residents that invest in the US. I help them set up LLCs and get bank accounts. And so they're starting business here already. So uh yeah, I mean, I guess at that point you could apply at any point, right? Depending on profitability, management, and substantialness. Is that word?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the business is doing business, you're open to the public
Yeah.
or whatever the format. But if you're operating that business already, yeah, you can apply for the investor visa.
Okay. You can't say I'm planning on putting money into this company or, you have to actually do it. It has to already be at risk. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
easy way is, hey, here's a contract. It's a construction company. I bought the bulldozer. It costed me 150,000. I bought the crane and it costed me $200,000, right?
Right.
Maybe you didn't pay cash 100%. Maybe they did financing, but each one of those you put in 20, 30, 40, 60, 80,000, $100,000 in 5, 7 pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And then the rest you got loans, right? For the next 2, 3 years.
Hmm.
Well, you've already committed to it.
Right. Yeah. Clearly you're planning on, yeah, you have a substantial investment in this business and you're committed to doing business as you've said.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what's the certification process year on year? So you said you need to be able to prove profitability. So there's an initial application and then each year you have to file something with them or how does that work?
No, it depends the country. So no. So you have to do a business plan, a 5-year business plan.
Okay.
You have to obviously set up the business. You have to have all the evidence that this business has been set up, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I apologize if you see people walking behind me. I'm actually
Yeah.
at a conference
Yeah. Yeah.
for law firm owners on how to successfully operate your law firm, right?
Right.
So how to hire the right team, how to hire the right team members, how to do your finances, how to,
Right.
the 6, 7 parts of a business. So I love investor visas because I get to speak to investors about their businesses. And
Mhm.
sometimes I get to share what I'm learning that easily transfers from my business running a law firm. And I'll share them my ideas to help the investor become successful in their American business, right?
Yeah.
So going back to your original question, your question was how to what we need to demonstrate. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, it was kind of, yeah, the initial application and demonstration, then year on year, if there's anything.
Yeah, there is no year-on-year requirement. What they'll do is they'll give you a 4-year or a 5-year visa, depending what country you're coming from.
Okay.
Some countries are 2 years, some are 4, some are
So
5.
then to
L-
renew it, you'd need to be able to show
Exactly.
capability. Yeah, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, so that's a really common one. So I'm curious, and I may be way off here, but the EB-5, because that's also an investor type visa, right? Or no?
It is,
Okay.
but obviously you're talking about an $800,000 investment, and that one actually leads to your legal permanent residency.
Okay. So that's the
So
difference. Is the E1 and E2, just to be clear, is that like the E1 is the main one. You have like a spouse or something on the E2, or are those totally different visas?
No, the E2 is the investor. Okay.
Okay.
You invested X amount to get that visa. The E1 is you already have a history of either exporting or importing into the US, right? So
Mm.
let's assume you're in, I don't know, you're in France, right? And you export oils or something. You export something to the US
Yeah.
and you've been doing it for 6 months, 12 months, 30, $60,000 every month. You're sending your product from France to the US. That's an E1. Or let's assume you're in X country and you're importing something from the US to your home country. And
Oh,
every month you're buying some type of material.
mm,
That's the E1.
I see. Okay. So I was way off there. I thought they were connected, but they're really two totally separate visas. They both
Oh,
have to do
yes.
with business in the US, but the E2 is your investor visa.
Correct. So you've got the E2, you've got the E1, and then EB5. That's a great visa. Um, the EB5 is, I kind of call it for those that don't want to work in the US, but they want to become legal permanent residents, right?
Okay.
You invest $800,000 into a regional center,
Mhm.
and you eventually get your legal permanent residency. Right now, that's taking about 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
However, I do not recommend that for what I call multinational executives. Let's assume that outside the US, you have your own business and you've got 50, 100 employees,
Mhm.
and you decide to come into the US and either do a similar business or totally something different, but you're going to grow and you're going to have 20, 30, 40 employees. So you've got your business in your country, you've got a business in the US. Right there, you're considered a multinational executive.
Yeah.
And you could do this with the E2 visa. Now, with that format, you can then petition for yourself to become a legal permanent resident.
Wow. Okay.
So that's called a EB1C.
Okay.
We do those all the time. But let's assume you're an executive for a big company in your home country and you're 55, 65, and you're like, you know what? I retired, but I do want to live in the US. I want to become a permanent resident. That's where the EB5 would really help out.
Gotcha. Okay. And yeah, and I told you we talked about this before we started recording, but kind of the political climate and how that changes things going forward. I'm really curious to hear how, especially I would think the EB5s and E2s, like what is the Trump administration or the potential like murmurings, of things to happen with the Trump administration? Like, how has that affected so far? And we've already seen this, right? So like, how did it affect it last time and what are we expecting this time?
Yeah. So last time, especially with the E2s, we had this hire Americans, buy America, right? So, um, what they did last time is part of your business plan, you had to demonstrate how you were going to hire Americans as an investor. You're coming to the US. How are
It
you
was
going to
part
grow
of
the
the
business?
qualification process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They didn't touch very much the EB5.
Yeah.
Um, In fact, I think they're going to be very friendly to the EB5 industry.
Mhm.
And I would suspect that this time around, they're going to continue being friendly to the E2 visa as well.
Yeah.
I think the new administration is really focused more on persons that are in the US, right? That have, maybe they had a deportation order, they had court and they
Mm.
never left.
Right.
Immigrants with criminal records, immigrants that, or foreigners that don't have legal status in the US. I think that's where their main focus is going to be.
For sure.
And I hope that the new administration fixes the H-1B visa or that,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that part of the immigration system. Um, So we'll see. We'll see. I think as far as business wise for investors for EB5, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the next 4 or 5 years.
Okay. So that may even go up the investor and business side of it. I mean,
I
have you
think
seen
so.
like administratively, because I mean, I mean, I deal with the government in its own sector every day, and
Yeah.
it's a slow moving train, in a lot of cases. So, I mean, if you're applying for an E2, like what is the time period, and have you seen that change much, like over the last couple administrations?
Well, I think that what created the delay was actually COVID, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Now, getting the visa at at the actual embassies or at the consulates, depending where you're at and what part of the world, normally they're taking anywhere. For example, in London, the American embassy in London, they take anywhere between 1 month to 3 months.
right.
In Mexico, if I send them to the embassy in Mexico City, they're taking anywhere between 3 to 5 months to get an interview.
Okay, so it just depends on where you're applying from, really, as far
Yeah.
it's not so much the US as it is the particular embassy and consulate that you're working with. Is that
Well,
true?
it's a
I guess it's
particular
both.
embassy consulate,
Well, it's
and
getting the appointment and then it's the application process. I see. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and how much volume do they have, right? So
Right.
it's very the Mexico is right next to us, their neighboring country, right? So there's a lot of investors that come from Mexico. So they have a lot of visa appointments, much less in London, much less in Germany, much less in
Right.
Korea, Japan. So those other countries, it's going to be probably a lot faster.
Right. But what about on the US side? Like once you get the application in, what is that looking like generally? Or does it
Inside
just
the
depend?
US, the good thing about doing it inside the US, there's a service that immigration offers called premium processing. So you pay an additional fee of $2,805.
Right.
And what they guarantee is that they will process your application within 30 to 45 days. So you will get notified right away. In fact, I just filed one, I think in November, and they processed it within like 10 days. It was approved in 10 days.
Okay. And so you're good to go in that 10 days. After that 10
Oh,
days is
yes.
processed, you're good to go. You can, okay.
Yeah, you can start working, right? So
Yeah.
you can now legally start running your business.
And is there like a threshold that the US government has as to how many they let in a given year? I'm sure I've
N-
heard his.
Not for the E2s, E1s, and or EB5s. For
Okay.
other visa types, yes.
There are others. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned what was it, the H-1B?
Yeah, the H-1B is for employees of companies, right? So, we heard, Microsoft, Apple, a lot of the engineering doesn't have to be engineering, could be doctors as well.
Yeah.
It does require that you do have a degree for the H-1B.
Okay.
Um,
From anywhere, it doesn't matter where it's from. Like
Correct.
it doesn't have to
As
be
long
US or anything.
No, it does not have to be from the US, but it has to be the equivalent of a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And now those are subject to a cap. That's
Right.
the only issue with those. So
Yeah.
if you're from, for example, if you're from Canada or Mexico, there's another visa called a TN, Treaty
Uh-huh.
National,
Right, right.
Treaty Trader visa for NAFTA. So H-1B is for everybody else.
I see. Okay. And that one, you mentioned that you hope they fix some stuff with that one. So what are the issues that you see with that one? Is it that way?
Yeah, the cap. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got 300,000 applications and only 60,000 are being issued. So,
Really?
um,
Per year?
it's per year.
60,000. Okay. And these are
Yeah.
like when you hear about the tech industry bringing in people from outside the US, that's the H-1B visa. I mean, and
That,
shoot, some of these companies have hundreds of thousands of tech workers, you know? Um,
correct.
yeah, crazy.
Now, once they get it brand new, then they can continue extending it. So the
Right.
cap doesn't apply to the extension. It's only the new visas.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm sure they somehow parse that out, like by companies or who knows how they do that.
It's
Uh,
right now it's on a lottery system. So
oh,
that's why I'm saying that's a
so like if
system that
I wanted to
definitely
hire somebody for my business on an H-1B, probably not happen. I mean, or is it
most
just, or do I have an equal chance as someone else
it
based on the lottery?
you have it's a lottery. You have the equal chance like
Yes.
everybody else
The
does.
equal unlikely chance as everyone else.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Very interesting. All right, cool. So yeah, uh, yeah, that explains like the two investor visas, and that's what I see the most. And obviously on my side, I'm always dealing with the tax side of it. So just a quick plug for what I do, if you're looking at one of these visas coming in, talk to a tax professional before you move because the IRS the IRS can be a difficult administration to deal with. And there's a lot of things we can do on the front end before you get here to make your life a lot easier and more efficient from a tax perspective. But yeah, so on the immigration side, I'm just curious. Yeah, the kind of last point here are there is especially investor type visas, people coming in like an E2. What do you have any particular things you would recommend that issues you see people run into that they should look out for before they come in?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of myths out there. I think the first thing you need to do is do a consultation with an attorney that specializes in E2s, just so we can get those myths out of the way, right?
Mhm.
And a good attorney will give you a strategy and kind of explain the 30,000 foot view, the 15,000, and then the day to day, right? They should be able to explain all of that because that's what you need to understand in order to then start working and executing to start with step one, step two. And step one and step two is obviously speaking to your CPA, speaking to your tax specialist, right? Speaking to a corporate attorney, right?
Mhm.
Um, um, Thinking about, hey, I'm a foreigner in the US that I'm about to invest $300,000. Well, what if I die? What happens with that? Right? How is that handled? Are there any tax consequences? Right? Um, you know, so understanding all that, understanding partnerships. If you're going to get into a partnership with a US citizen or a permanent resident, how does that play out?
Right.
So, and what about your family? Can your family come with you? Can they work? What
Mhm.
about their schooling? Well, what if I'm coming with
Right.
a child that's 18 years old versus 22? Do both of them qualify? So I think having a
Yeah.
good understanding and being honest with, not honest, being forthcoming with the attorney about what's your one
Mhm.
year plan, your 3 year plan, and your 5 year plan. I personally always ask about the family and where do you want to be 5 years from now? And then I try to engineer it backwards so we can meet their goal, whatever their goal is 5 years from now. If they want to become a permanent resident, what do we need to do today so you can get to that point 5 years from now?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I have one last question I just thought about. Let's say you're on the E2 visa. What are some, and you get qualified for 4 to 5 years? What are some things that could get you in trouble during that 4 to 5 years? Like to where you might
Any
lose that visa?
criminal,
There's,
obviously, if you get arrested for something that's very serious, they can revoke your
yeah.
visa.
What
Um,
if you start, for example, because I've heard of people, you start working for other companies. Like you set up a company and you start working for other companies, and maybe that's allowed. I don't know. But I was just curious if there's things you need to be careful of during that visa period to not cross a line with your E2 visa that could get you in trouble.
Yeah, I think the most common is where they close down the company because it didn't go well and they open up a new company with a new
Yeah.
tax ID number and they don't let
Hmm.
immigration know. That's
Right.
that's an issue.
That makes sense. Okay. All right, cool. Well, hey, Alfredo, I really appreciate it. This has been good stuff. I learned a lot for sure. We'll let you get back to your conference, learn how to do the business of lawyering. We
Yes.
all could get some training in there, I think. Uh,
Yeah, and I love it because it's practical advice that I love talking to investors. I love talking about their businesses. I want to know about their businesses. And I've been doing this for 20 years, so sometimes they'll want to get into an industry in the US that maybe they don't know very much about, but they see potential. So I can always direct them to specialists or other professionals in that industry, or at least I try my best so
yeah.
they can start off on the right foot.